Hello, guys. Thank you for tuning in to the More Than the Numbers podcast. This is a show where we'll dive into the stories of people overcoming financial insecurity, showing the different paths that people take to become wealthy, and overall just how to live a more purposeful life. So, if you enjoyed listening to the show, please show some support. Give us a 5-star review and leave a comment of your favorite part of the pod. Also, please share it to anyone that you know that feels stuck and that needs some uplifting or need some help to get their finances in order. We're really just trying to help as many people as we can with these stories. God bless all of you, and yeah, just enjoy the show. So, what I'll do here is I'll go over some of the lessons that I learned with prepping and buying my first home. So, what I did right, what I did wrong, what the mindset was that I had throughout the process, and my goals and intentions that I had about it. And then at the end, I'll share some of the applicable strategies that you guys can use if you want to get started in real estate and how you guys can do it better than, than how I did it. Uh, but before we get into those specifics, it's story time. I mean, we gotta bring it all the way back. We gotta bring it all the way back to when I was a wee lad, to when I was around, I'd say 6, 7 years old. So this is how I really first became even interested in the idea of real estate or having a home or a house, right? So story time. Uh, I grew up in Hacienda Heights, California. So I grew up in living in my grandpa's home. So he purchased this home, I'd say in the 80s or 90s, I believe. So it's a three-bedroom, two-bathroom home. Uh, all of my aunts, my uncles, my cousins actually lived in this home. For me and my brothers and my parents, we actually lived in the garage. Now, I know it sounds crazy, but it was actually better than you think. So, I mean, we had a TV in there, we had a couch. Me and Julian had bunk beds. We had a little office space on the corner of the room where we could do homework, and my mom did her business there, and we had I don't know if I mentioned we had our fridge there. So I mean, it was like a mini house. So we had that while my the rest of my family, some of them lived in the living room, and then my cousins and aunts and uncles had the other bedrooms. But like I said, it's your typical Mexican household. We all supported each other and helped pay the mortgage for my grandpa. And it was a fun time. I spent a lot of time playing with my brothers outside and my cousin Tony. So I had a great childhood, amazing, filled with love. Uh, but as you can see, having a lot of people in one tiny home uh, it's not all sunshines and rainbows and unicorns all the time. So there was a lot of financial struggle that each of our family members were going through. Just to give you guys some context, my dad was the only uh, college graduate, and my mom's side, again, they're from Mexico, so all of them had blue collar workers. All of them were blue collar workers, and were just trying to get their own footing with their finances. There's not really someone that taught them of how uh, personal finance, building wealth really works. So we just did what we could, put food on the table, and just enjoyed life. So that was uh, the situation that we lived in. I'd say from that I lived in from about 0 to maybe about 16, 18 years old. But anyways, on the weekends, just because my parents would always venture out and seeing if it was possible to purchase a home. So we would always on the weekends. I don't know if your families did this, but we didn't go to any fancy restaurants. We didn't go to any vacations. What we did do on the weekends was go to the KB Homes in the Inland Empire. So KB Homes, if for those of you who don't know, is a company that builds these new model homes where you can go and take tours of it. And it's like HGTV style homes. All of it's nice furniture, beautiful colors. And at the time, and when was this? Maybe in the 2000 or the 2005 through 8 range. Um, we were just going and venturing and looking at at all the different houses, and I would like to imagine myself of having my own room, always wanting some stairs in the house, always wanted a pool with a backyard so we could play baseball. Me and Julian would always play like hide and go seek in the house. It's pretty funny. We'd run around until the real estate agents would tell us, "Hey, chill out, sink to your house." Nah, they couldn't tell us that because we'd keep on running around. But anyways, that's really what got my interest in one day having my home. I'm like, I want this. I want this for myself. I want to be able to provide for my family so we don't have to live all bunched up like this. So it became an early dream of mine to someday, you know, get a house of my own and maybe even purchase a home for my parents. But we'll fast forward on into my college years. So during that time, I was really learning about how to pay off my own debt. So I had an auto loan at the time, and I had a little bit of student loan debt from me going on my study abroad trip in Greece. So I just began, on that YouTube binge. I was uh, reading books like Rich Dad Poor Dad, watching a lot of videos on Dave Ramsey, Graham Stephan, Meet Kevin. I'm not sure if you guys know of any of those people, but there's some finance YouTuber, influencer type people. But anyways, they had a lot of good videos of just showing different strategies with how to pay things off, and then they introduced the concept with how to build wealth. And Grant Stephan specifically introduced the concept to me of house hacking. This makes sense to me. So, I mean, when I graduate and I'm gonna move out of my house anyways, I'm gonna end up having to pay rent to live. Might as well try to own the place that I'm gonna be living in. And if I house hack it, then the mortgage might be even cheaper than it would be to rent. Because I don't really have issues sharing space, living with housemates or roommates, just because obviously I've been doing it my whole life. So, I mean, it doesn't seem that bad. Also, learned of additional benefits that house hacking had versus buying an investment home. So, since you're buying a primary residence, that as we just went over, it's a home that you will be living in, you can actually put less than 20% down. Uh, and you can even put as low as 3% down. Dang, okay. And not only that, but there are some first time homebuyer down payment assistance programs that means that the government can grant or even pay for your full down payment. So you can get the home essentially with 0% down, nothing down. That's crazy to me. And not only do you have to come up with less money, but you can actually buy it with your family or friends. So you can have multiple people on the application uh, to get more income and make your pre-approval amount much, much bigger. So you can get a bigger home with more rooms. So if your family or friends wanted ownership of it, we could just write up a contract and just organize how everything would be split up. That way, we could all eat, we could all win. And yeah, it's just mind blowing to me that I was never taught this or had even known about this. But another benefit too is that the interest rates on these primary residence homes are much, much cheaper than if you were to go and buy an investment home. So that means that the payment can either be similar or even cheaper. You know what? I just realized. Wow. Turns out my 60-year-old abuelito grandpa, who was born in Mexico, works as a janitor at Ralph's. He's a savvy real estate investor. Bruh, he's been house hacking for the past 20 to 30 years and I didn't even know it. That man's even he even got us to live in the garage to help pay for the mortgage. What a guy. He's gonna have some explaining to do when I do talk to him on Sunday. I have to pick his brain on that, how he finessed that one. Just kidding. But yeah, going back to this idea. So, I mean, if you have, it makes sense though. It really does make sense. If you have your roommates or your housemates helping to pay the mortgage, you don't have to have that whole burden on yourself of being house poor and using all your money to just pay for your mortgage or your monthly payment each month. It'd be just like you were living in an apartment and you'd be splitting rent, except that you get the advantages of being a homeowner and get to own an actual asset that not only can make money for you down the road, but you can also pass it to your kids so they have somewhere to live, and they don't have to experience any, money issues or financial insecurities. So yeah, going back to my thinking, if we're gonna have to be paying rent anyways, might as well own the property and not have to pay some random landlord or big real estate company. So it was crazy. It was a crazy realization at that time when my mind was blown. Uh, then this was, a route that we can finally get out of living paycheck to paycheck, and not being able to utilize the tools that we had right in front of our faces. So that would be my goal. My whole plan, I had this all written up. I was all excited about this. My plan would be to house hack my way to financial freedom. So uh, I would get my first home. I would use the 3% down payment, rent it out to some family or friends. Hopefully, my parents come live with me, uh, or my aunts. Like, I don't know, anybody. Maybe live in it for about a year or two, then save up another 3%, or use the down payment assistance program, uh, and purchase another one, and then just replace the room that I was living in and put someone else in there. Rinse and repeat. Have a couple homes, and then maybe a little bit later on down the line, my family or friends will have done this themselves, so they can move out, and then I can just rent out my homes to a family, because I think that would be a little bit less stress, a little bit less stressful in comparison to renting it out to just family and friends all the time. So I mean, if I had like 5 or 6 properties, then maybe I'd have enough income to allow me to retire early. So this thing could really help supplement my physical therapy salary of, maybe 70, 80, 90,000. Uh, I could possibly retire much, much earlier than I expected, much earlier than the regular 65 retirement age. And maybe I could finally take my family on some vacations. We can go watch some Dodger games, some Laker games, maybe. I don't know, start a business. At least I'd have the freedom to finally choose what I wanted to do, man. And wow, it's holy ravioli. I think I was on something. Now you can only imagine how hyped up college Kenny was after watching all these YouTube videos, reading all these books. Man, I could run into a brick wall and house hack everything. I was telling my friends about it, telling my girlfriend about it at the time. I was telling my parents, and they were all like, "Dude, you need to chill out. Like you're going to school for kinesiology. You're going to be a physical therapist. Like just focus on that." And I was like, "Okay, okay, okay." So fast forward a little bit later on. So I ended up graduating from Cal State Fullerton. Spent about a year after that working at an outpatient clinic at uh, for physical therapy, and I started really, really thinking. I'm like, yeah, I'm all hyped up about the idea of owning a house, house hacking, becoming a real estate investor, but realistically, like, how am I actually going to get this plan into action? Am I really going to go down this physical therapy road, or should I just take a chance and do something different? And after a lot of contemplation, I was just like, you know what, let's do this. Let's learn about real estate. Let's learn about the financing of mortgages, and really get some actual experience in the field. So I decided to apply for some bachelor degree jobs under the real estate industry, and I began working as a mortgage loan officer. So I wanted to just soak in really as much education as I possibly could, so I can get closer and closer to, achieving my dream of getting my first home. So fast forward a little bit more. Spent 2 years as a loan officer, so doing refinances, doing purchases for homes. Spoke to literally hundreds, if not thousands, of people over the phone for their regarding their financial situations, and seeing if it made sense for them to refinance or purchase at that time. It was like a call center that I worked for, and it was a sales type job. So, and I got tons of experience because I talked to so many people, had direct guidance under a couple different managers, and again, I was, pretty hyped up about real estate. I'm like, wow, there's a lot of information that a lot of people don't know, especially like families like myself and my friends. So I was just, always telling them about the different things that I was learning. And the some of the main things that I learned, the main benefits of real estate that I learned, were some of the first time home buyer programs that
you technically don't have to come up with a down payment yourself. The government actually has programs that will fund the down payment for you. You just have to qualify for it. There are significant tax benefits with having real estate, so you don't have to pay as much taxes when you own uh, either residential homes or commercial homes. I learned about how the appreciation of real estate, so how much the values of homes go up over time, and what kind of homes and in what types of areas and what types of homes, whether it's condos, whether it's single family residence, duplexes, which ones go up in value more than others. So I learned about that. I learned about, how you can leverage or borrow against your home. So use your equity to take money out and either use it to pay for debt or use it to invest or use it to, pay for your kids' college, for example. And I just learned how financing works. So how you can get qualified for different programs, what are the key things that you need, what are the key foundations that you need to purchase a home and be able to purchase more than just one home. So tons of things that I learned. I can go all all on and on about the different things that I learned during that time. But for my specific case, it really solidified my foundation of what I needed to know for my specific house hack strategy. The main key concepts were I needed to have a good credit score, so above a 740. I needed to save up about 3 to 5% down for a down payment for the home, and I needed to have a 2 year work history. So those were the main concepts. So fast forward a little bit more, the day to the day of my second anniversary on the job, so August of 2021, I got all of my documents together and I actually had saved up just enough for a 5% down payment for my first home. So it was like that felt like a real graduation day was when I submitted all my documents for the pre-approval. And I know I skipped over a bunch, but during those 2 years, it was actually the interest rates had actually gone down. So there was a bunch of business for refinance and purchases. I got super lucky and blessed that I was able to save up a pretty good chunk of money in a short amount of time. I was planning to save for years and years, maybe about 5 years, but I was able to do it in a 2 year time slot. So I was like, you know what? I'm not going to take any chances. I just need to put in my pre approval right now. I need to get my house right now in case, this changes. Now, as excited as I was going to be making the biggest investment of my life. So, really, really have to control my emotions, take a step back and relax and really just look at the big picture, grand scheme of things. As the late, great Kobe Bryant once said in the NBA Finals, job's not finished. So I wasn't there yet. I didn't have my home yet. I didn't have the keys in hand yet. I really did need to be logical, tactical, but also not afraid to pull the trigger when I did find the home that met my criteria. So I did create a list to meet the criteria of the Kenny House hack. So here's just a few things that were on my list. This is in no particular order, just and maybe you guys can jot some of these down too in the case you want to do something similar. But the home that I was looking for, I wanted it to be in a good neighborhood, meaning that it was quiet. There wasn't any partying done at night, preferably with homeowners who had lived in the neighborhood for a long time. So you can figure that out by talking to some of the neighbors and just driving it around at at different times of the day just to see if it's a busier type of neighborhood and to see if there's always cops in that neighborhood is probably not a good sign or but yeah, you just want to make sure of that you want to be in a good neighborhood because it will go up in value over time, and you want to keep your windows not broken. So next thing, I wanted to be close. I wanted the home to be close to grocery stores, and if there were new developments nearby. So, for example, I noticed that there was a Chipotle nearby, a Walmart, Stater Bros, Northgate, all of those things right nearby the neighborhood that I ended up choosing. And there was also construction for apartments nearby. So I knew that more people were coming to this area, which means that, it could go up in value over time. So I wanted to buy a house too that did not need too much renovation. So I wasn't a big construction expert. I'm not really Uh, that's not my expertise, but you just want to make sure that the big things are checked off, like the foundation, the roof, the electrical, the plumbing, all the expensive items are they all look good. Now, a lot of people like to buy uh, disheveled homes and fix them up, and you can get some great value that way. I'm not saying that's a bad idea. It's a great idea. I wish I had done something like that, but in my checklist, I did not want to do too much renovation because there was already a lot of other things that I was dealing with buying the home. So I didn't want to take any chances with a big project. But I also another thing on the checklist is that I wanted it to be close from my work. So I wanted it to be at least 20 minutes away from my work in Costa Mesa. And just for context, that's in Orange County in Southern California. So I didn't want to be driving too far. I didn't want to be driving an hour plus away every single day. And 'cause I know that's going to drain my energy and uh, just make me not feel as happy every single day. Also, I wanted it to be a single family residence home. So I did not want to get a condo because I was kind of tired of living in the apartment style homes because I had lived in two apartments previous to that. I didn't want to have any HOAs. So, homeowners association, what that means is that there are certain rules that neighborhoods have to abide by. You can't paint your house a certain color. You have to, keep the front clean. Some of them are good, but some of the HOAs can be a handful. So I just wanted to avoid that altogether. I'm not saying it's a bad idea to get into a condo or an HOA. I'm just saying for my specific situation, I didn't want to do it at that time. But I know of plenty of other people who live in an HOA and condos and they love it. So it all depends. Every single house is a little bit different. But for my house, I also wanted it to be at least four bedrooms and at least two bathrooms. So this would be so I could rent the bedrooms out to my three friends that I was currently living with. So they would occupy all. We would have all the rooms occupied. So it would cover the full. So it would help cover the full mortgage. So if I only had two bedrooms, then it would be a bigger chunk of money that we would have to come up with to pay for the mortgage. Also, I wanted to get a detached garage. What that means is a garage that wasn't attached to the house. So that means in the future that I could you can possibly build an ADU, which is an additional dwelling unit, which is just another house space if you wanted to rent that portion out. I ended up not getting a home that had a detached garage, but that was just something that I was looking for in the case I wanted to really, really make the most of it and rent that out. There's a lot of nice ADU projects that people do. I've seen them on Instagram. So, I was thinking maybe it could have been a possibility down the road. And then another point that I put down there is that the house did not necessarily need to be my dream house. So since this is my first home and it's going to be an investment home at some point where I'm not going to be living in it, doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. It just has to be, I was really focusing on function. I really wanted it to be functional, nice, clean, good neighborhood. And that I was going to be planning to live there for a couple years. So it had to have that good feel. I wanted to feel nice and clean, really. Oh, sorry. That was a little bit of a breathful with that checklist there. But anyways, so what's the first step with actually buying the house, right? Most people think, do I have to find a real estate agent? So no, I wouldn't recommend doing that first. The first thing that you really want to do is to get pre-approved. So for me, I got pre-approved with a couple different banks because I was curious about learning each of their processes, and I wanted to see if there were different interest rates that I could get, which one would have the best deal. So I ended up using an online bank called better.com. After using that, I wouldn't recommend it, that one specifically going forward, but just a reference. That one did have the best interest rate among the ones that I was shopping for at the time. So what the lender or the bank will do is that they'll use your credit score, they'll use your income, and they'll use your down payment to determine what kind of loan program that you qualify for and what kind of interest rate that you would get to calculate what payment that you would qualify for. Then once you get the payment, they will figure what the max purchase price you can get uh, for the home that you're going to end up buying. So in my specific case, and again, don't mean to uh, sound braggy or flexy at all with any of this. This is just truly just to give truthful information and to give you guys context on how this process works. So I was actually qualified for a purchase price of 800,000 at that current time, with a 5% down payment. So that one was going to be a conventional loan with mortgage insurance. So when you don't put down 20% for the home, you get this thing that's called mortgage insurance. Just think of it as an additional payment that you have to pay uh, to utilize less than 20% down. I think it's certainly worth it just because you can get the mortgage insurance removed a little bit later on down the line. So it wasn't too big of a deal for me. Now, I know a lot of these terms may seem unfamiliar. It would be a whole like podcast that I would need to do to go over the details and definitions of each thing. But if you do want to get more context, feel free to message me. I love talking about this stuff, so I'd be happy to help you out with understanding it and maybe setting you guys up with it. But just to give some more context about what kind of market we were dealing with in 2021. So interest rates, like I said a little bit earlier, they were extremely low, historically low, and there was hardly any inventory on the market. So people were outbidding each other like crazy, and a lot of investors were using cash offers to buy the house outright. And just for reference, a lot of sellers prefer to deal with people who are buying the homes with cash just because it's much quicker process. It's an easier transaction than going through with the mortgage. So if you're doing it with cash, it could be like a 2 week process, maybe even less. When you're doing a mortgage, sometimes it can be between 21 and 45 days, depending on what kind of program and how quick things are moving. But overall, just to take a step back, my mindset, I wanted to be prepared for, any kind of worst case scenario. So I wasn't really too afraid, even though the talks at the time were about, that the homes, that it's a big bubble and that the value of the homes are going to end up dropping. I didn't worry about that too much just because I'm here for the long term, right? So real estate will always go up, I believe, over time in the long term. And as long as my payment stays the same, and it's a comfortable payment for me, I don't really care, how low the value goes. So, and anyways, too, I would be renting out the rooms to my friends. So, I wouldn't have to be covering that full payment by myself in that worst case. But it would have to be a really, really bad situation if, there were no renters at all, if the values of homes dropped, I lost my job. So, the chances of that were fairly low. So, I thought it was a good time for me to pull the trigger at the time. So, and plus, what's the worst thing that can happen, right? If worst comes to worst, I can't afford it. I can't find any renters. I lose my job. That someone steals all my money. Well, I'll just move back to the garage, right? Right where everything began. Just go back to the garage, live with the fam once again. I'm just kidding, guys. I I don't think I could go back to the garage, even if it gets that bad. I'll probably, hit the streets first before the garage, honestly. But anyways, so fast forward a little bit after a lot of emotional roller coasters and stresses, I found my I found my home. It's in Santa Ana, California. Good neighborhood. Hit most of the things on my checklist. I ended up putting down 5%. I got a 2.875% interest rate, 30-year fixed. I ended up getting it for about 750,000, and my mortgage payment ended up being 3950. Now, this 3950 payment is the mortgage and payment that includes the property taxes, the homeowner's insurance, the mortgage insurance, the principal, and the interest. So covers all that full portion is what that constitutes. And after receiving the rental income each month, the net mortgage payment comes out to about 800 bucks. So pretty good for Orange County, and owning a home's $800 mortgage. But just keep in mind though, there are other expenses, not just the mortgage when you own a home, that that comes with being a homeowner, like the utilities, so that's water, trash, electric, gas. There's supplemental property taxes. Uh, Also, if you really want to take care of your housemates that you're living with, you want to buy all of the extra necessities like drinking water, paper towels, napkins, toilet paper, towels. You also want to make sure you get good furniture so everything's working and in order. And you also want to be able to have money to fix any of the furniture or anything that is part of the house or the bathrooms that need fixing. So it's extremely, extremely important to have money or reserves set aside for these extra expenses. But anyways, after all of these monthly expenses, I'd say it comes out to maybe about 1,600 bucks a month. So still, overall, it's not bad. Most one-bedroom apartments in Orange County and the LA area cost more than 1,600. So I think it's well worth it. And plus, you get the benefits of the uh, the appreciation of the home, one day owning it outright, and the tax benefits. So there's a lot of different things that being a homeowner comes with, but it's not as easy as people make it seem sometimes on Instagram or TikTok. So it's always good just to have a big picture scope of what you're getting into, and this is what this podcast is all about, just to give you some true good information. So, but going back to the extra expenses and necessities like um, the drinking water, paper towels, all that stuff. You don't necessarily have to do that. Everyone does it a little bit differently, but I really want to keep this a good experience for myself and everyone living here. So I really, really try to go above and beyond. So I get a monthly cleaning service, some HBO Max, Hulu, cable, Netflix, Wi-Fi, all of that. Because I believe if you treat the people around you right, they'll return the favor and take care of your home and treat you right. So but overall, guys, I know this was a lot. This was a pretty dense podcast, a lot of information here, but I really wanted to be as transparent as I possibly could on the process and the figures so you guys can have some context and some color to this picture. So, that's like I said, it's a more than the numbers podcast exclusive. We give you the true value, the true experience, the true stories here. And I know myself, I would have loved to hear something like this that has gone as in depth and as clear as this, hopefully. um, because it's a very stressful process when you're getting into the actual purchase experience, not necessarily just because of the steps, but it takes a lot of emotional uh, energy out of you, especially if it's something that you've been dreaming about since you were little. But anyways, guys, if you I rambled a bunch on this podcast, even more than what you guys hear. I actually cut out a bunch of info just because it's such a big and lengthy process. There's a lot that goes into it. Um, but if you do want to hear about those things that I cut out or get some more detail or context with anything else, just let me know in the comments. Please share this with as many people as you can like it and request to put maybe like a part two for this. And I can go into some specific nuances about maybe uh, the how you set up a lease agreement, how you do uh, uh, how you find the right tenants, for example, the background checks, um, finding the right amenities, necessities, things like that. But just to reflect on everything here, I'm just really, really thankful, super blessed that I actually accomplished my dream. I know not many people get to actually uh, get their dreams fulfilled. So it's just a crazy, crazy experience. And to every single day I wake up and I just feel extremely blessed and happy. It still doesn't even feel real sometimes. Hey, who's cutting onions in here? I think there's something in my eye, some dust in here. But anyways, no, my overall, guys, yeah, my hope is that this story just serves as inspiration or hope to whoever will want to buy a house in the future, but is nervous or is anxious about everything going on in the news and on social media or any of the pushback that you hear from family, friends. So hopefully this actual experience uh, brings some light to that, that there's, another side to this. It's not all doom and gloom. So just want to give some last tips. I want to really, really squeeze all the juice that I can. Just some guidance for you guys, and some words of advice. So you can never really predict the kind of economies in the world. You can't predict the real estate market. You can't predict the stocks, crypto, any of that. But you can control the things that you can control. So you can control your education level. You can control your skill level. You can control your efforts and your time that you take in going towards your goals. I would just say to learn as much as you can about your long-term dream. Actually write out your goals, and follow the thing that keeps on itching at you, that that you should probably get started, or learn about doing, whether that's becoming a musician, whether that's, starting to stream for video games, or become a police officer or fire department, or, become a photographer, anything. So that's what I'm trying to do with this podcast, with joining my nonprofit, is really to solve the issue of financial insecurity with each and every person, especially with minorities that, they're the ones that are hit the hardest, and it's really, really tough for them to come from a different country and start somewhere brand new. Um, it is a really, really big advantage for the people who do have generational wealth. So I want to give more support and emphasis with the people that truly need that kind of help. So some more words of advice, just don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to fail, to make adjustments along the way. As long as you keep making the effort to keep going, I really believe that life will work itself out better than you could have even imagined. And in terms of buying the house, here's some other quick tips. You want to be able to control your credit score. You want to be able to control your debt, have some emergency savings in order, get into a career that you want to be in for the long term. Like I said, you need at least 2 years of employment to get approved for a home. And like I said before, the rest will work itself out. You just need to take the first step, begin learning, and that's what you're doing by hearing this podcast. You're really taking this first step, uh, and taking yourself on the right journey of being enlightened about your finances. Special shout outs to a lot of people who helped me along the way. I did not do this by myself. Shout out to Josh, my friend and real estate agent, and his dad Gilbert with his guidance on the construction and different types of homes. Shout out to my boy Moon, who stuck through from Anaheim to Newport to Santa Ana and helped me set up the whole place. Shout out to my parents. Gosh, supported me so much. My fiance, uh, my aunts, my uncles, all of them who helped me do the construction of my house, get furniture in here, paint, clean. I want to thank my grandparents who they came out too, and my abuelita, everyone from the garage, guys, everyone from the old house, they all came out and supported. I feel like we all won as a team with me getting this. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this long podcast here. Uh, I just wish you guys all the best of luck. Again, still stay inspired. Don't listen to that inner voice that says you can't do it. Always believe in yourself, because things will work out better than what you think. But anyways, guys, share my podcast, rate it 5 stars if you took something from it. And like I said, especially share it to the people who you think are stuck, or who do need to hear this kind of message. Love you all, and have a great rest of your day, good week, rest of the year.